anyone, including myself, including Justice Thomas, who, by the way, I disagree with half the time, but I'm not a jurist. And it certainly, even if I was, I'm not a jurist of his caliber. But they want to marginalize anybody that thinks different. And what I tell black people is you have to look at what Jews do, what Chinese people do, what Japanese people do. I have a lot of friends who are Jews. They're Democrats and Republicans, but they never call each other a sellout just because their political beliefs are different. The only place where you see that kind of garbage take place is in the African American community. That's the only place where white politicians, white Democrat politicians, have come in and said, we're going to go ahead and put a line between and give permission for one group of blacks to call another group of blacks sellouts.
This is coming right here. This
Okay.
is this person right here on text 724-543-1380. Call or text. This person says right. The Constitution was written by white people for the benefit of white people.
You're 100% right. And that changed after Abraham Lincoln. I do not disagree. But if there's a constitution around the world, someplace where the darker nation exists, that's so great for everybody, please point me out the country that shows it. In terms of men and women of African descent, with all the problems that African Americans have had historically, if you look, African American wealth is still more, even though in comparatively to other ethnic groups in the country it's not, but it's still more now here than it is in any other African state.
Autry, you're just viewed as selling out your community. You're selling out the African American community. Here's somebody else saying right now, do other African Americans feel the same way you do about Donald Trump, or are you just like one of, again, you're the token guy?
Look up Google National Diversity Coalition and you'll see there's a whole breadth of African Americans that feel the same. A lot of people work, they go to school, they have to go to the hospitals. They don't want to be marginalized. They don't want to be cast aside. They don't look down on, so they hold their head down and keep quiet. There aren't a lot of African Americans in general, let's be honest, who feel the same about the conservative movement in general, or the libertarian movement, or the right side of the aisle, I should say, like me. But that's because of two things. One of the reasons is because Republicans have been absolutely stupid in their messaging to African Americans. Absolutely stupid. You can't tell a group of people that were oppressed for a few hundred years that, oh, just get over it. That it just, everybody's human. It doesn't work that way. And the second thing is the Republicans, they haven't offered up anything. Donald Trump is the first candidate, the first real Republican candidate to stand up and say, what are you doing? What the heck do you have to lose? Why do you keep voting? He's the first to say it. So he's getting a little bit of support. Now imagine, let's say Donald Trump, the next cycle, let's say he wins, and another 4 years he says it again. And eventually, that's how messaging works. It's a long-term message. You're a radio guy. You know how it works. You never tell an advertiser, oh, I'll blast one ad about your book. It's going to go. No, it's a long-term message. We need to see a sustained message. And that's what the Republican Party has to deliver.
But you're not going to get that with Trump. Every time he turns around, he's changing the message. Every time he's saying the wrong thing, he's running over himself. He doesn't know the difference between this country and that country. So I mean, how can you trust this guy who keeps saying these things?
There's two things. The first thing is with regards to African Americans. That his reach out to African Americans has been consistent. It's not covered on CNN, the Clinton News Network. It's not covered on MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS. But he has consistently, in almost all of his speeches, I see almost all of them, has a point of that speech where he says, African Americans, look at how the communities are being decimated by government policies. Now, with regards to the flip-flop, actually in my book, I believe chapter 7, it's called The Truth About the Flip-Flop. And I will say this. I understand people's concerns. Donald Trump has appeared on some occasions, and I can go through each one, but on some occasions he's changed his mind. On some occasions it's been a misinterpretation. On some occasions he may have misplaced a country on the globe.
Or perhaps he didn't realize as Mrs. Clinton didn't realize that whenever she got off the plane, she wasn't being shot at. You know, she was fine.
But I look at it like this. With Mr. Trump, and I say this to people like, oh, he doesn't know. He flip-flops. He goes over the... Number one, historically, Every politician has done it, and it always has been just as bad. They're more good at the slick messaging. But number two, that's okay, because you've had expert after expert. George W. Bush, let's talk about Republicans for a second, was surrounded by the best experts in the world. And when I say the world, not just U.S. intelligence experts, but remember he said, oh, well, we went into Iraq because the London told us, and Paris intelligence told us, and Saudi Arabia, everybody's intelligence told us that he had weapons of mass destruction. Those are the best smart. They're certainly smarter than, I don't know, 99% of the people I know in the world. And look what happened. We had the best financial people in the world prior to the crisis. Oh, we're fine. And a crisis happened. So when people say, oh, Donald Trump flip-flops, he doesn't know the location of a country, he doesn't know this, I say, I want you to show me how the experts have done so far.
All right. Texting, they're saying Lincoln freed blacks to gain their vote, not for freedom.
Well, there's a couple things. During that time in the period of history, an element, I believe, of what you're saying or texting is true. But during that time in history, it was a complicated matter. Now, my reading of history is that Lincoln did not really want slavery. Was he about to come out and come completely against it? And by the way, I don't think it was for votes. I think it might have been more for economic reasons. But was he going to come out completely against it? No. But if you read Lincoln's old speeches compared to Douglas, who was a staunch slavery supporter, you'll find that just like during the women's rights movement, it wasn't somebody, and listen, slavery is unfortunate. It's horrible. But the political reality was nobody was going to come out, and because those that didn't get heard, and say, end slavery now. The smart political people knew it was a process. It was just like everything else in politics. Let me moderate.
I'm getting a lot of texts, man, and okay, real quick, let's see, let's take this one. Tell me if you've ever heard this. Democrats want open borders. In the past, they bring immigrants in and dump them in the inner cities, so now immigrants receive benefits and feel beholden to those running the city. This is why Democrats only go to the populated areas during elections and expect those votes. That's why they don't have rallies in rural areas. So now we know why Hillary can go to a few areas and win the states.
Let me present a different notion to you. Instead of me demonizing the other side, let me present a notion that they really do care. Let me present a notion, instead of me coming against the other side, that they really do have empathy and sympathy for these individuals that are just clawing to get to this awesome country of ours. I'm not going to discount what the gentle lady or man is texting, but I am going to say, instead of demonizing, let's look at them and say, maybe they really care. My issue is, I will concede, man, you have a big heart and you care. But my issue is your priorities are wrong. I mean, I'm a big city guy now, but I grew up in a small, in Battle Creek, and going between Battle Creek, Michigan, and Alabama. And one of the things, I used to love to, pass out money and give people food. And I'll never forget, my grandma would say, that's awesome. Have a big heart, but make sure you take care of home first. Save first, earn money first, get your money to make money. And then when you have a few $100,000 in the bank or a few $10,000 and you have an extra $100, $200 extra, then you can pass that out. But make sure you can eat, and make sure your family can eat, because a man or a woman who can't take care of home first can't be expected to take care of anybody else. And that's what I'm saying with the country. Look at the prison system. 1% to 2% of the population of the United States in prison? That's crazy. We can't take care of home first. Let's take care of home first.
All right, I'm talking with Autry Pruitt. Man, I told you we're going to get into it, and I'm not done with them. I'll tell you, when we get back from this commercial break, I want your calls too. I want to know what you think. I have a whole bunch of blue screens right now here that are telling me what they think on, and I'll get to some of them here in just a minute on text. But 724-543-13. You can call me as well, all right, and you can ask the question, or you can tell him what he needs to be thinking, all right? It's all open game tonight on Talk of the Town. We'll be right back right after this. Stay with me.
That will surprise you. GPS-guided navigational lung bronchoscopy. A cancer center with minimally invasive approaches. The LINX procedure for gastroesophageal reflux. Cutting-edge shoulder and knee replacement. One of the country's top cardiac care interventional services. And one of the region's few concussion care programs. With easy access, free parking, and private patient rooms. ACMH, an innovation destination.
Local radio to start your day, throughout your day, and even all night long. We are AM 1380, WTYM Katanning, on the radio, computer, or smartphone app, and on the internet at www.wtymradio.com.
I'm going to arm wrestle for this night's over. I'm telling you. Let me just get to a couple of the texts. All right, politicians lie. Business people, minded people, fabricate so that they are on one and the same. They have all the money, while we as humans struggle because of those ubiquitous clandestines. Is no longer democracy. It's a oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
Okay, yeah, that's a. I don't used to working with that one. Okay, well, and then somebody else says you're just so wrong in so many ways.
Yeah, well, if I'm so wrong in so many ways, I more than welcome. Go to my website, Autry Pruitt. That's my first and last name. .com. Go to my website, Autry Pruitt, AutryPruitt.com, and contact me and tell me why. I have no problem engaging with people. But when someone says, oh, you're so wrong in so many ways, well, how am I wrong? Instead of sitting on the couch, reach out to me and tell me how I'm wrong. You're sitting there eating potato chips.
No, they're going to tell you right now how wrong you are, all right? Go ahead, caller. You're on Talk of the Town.
Hello, Autry.
Yes.
Autry, in one of your articles, you said that Trump is an anomaly among modern politicians. And you said that what excites people about him is his authenticity, that Trump is for real. And you kind of equated him to Bernie Sanders, which, I'm not so sure about, but I agreed with you up to that point. Now, my question to you is, what do you see in Trump that makes you believe that he is the right man for the job now?
All right, there's two things. I think that's a good question. Thank you for reading my article in Town Hall, by the way. I think it's called Trump's Way Smarter Than You.
Right.
So there's two things that I see. The first thing that I see is that he is not the current system. That is 40% of it, that he is not the current system. There is no way I believe you're going to get change because the presidency now has an overimportance. So there's no way now you're going to get change with anyone in the current system. Perhaps it might have come with Ted Cruz, maybe. But the issue is Ted Cruz still had some allegiances, not a lot, truth be told. And then the second reason I believe he's the right person for the job is because of, I used to do real estate in New York, and because of how he thinks about business, priorities, and merit.
Well, he doesn't think like government. I mean, this is one of our problems. Is they say, well, you can't do government like a business. Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
but he does get, and that excites me because I get so tired being in government. Watching, everybody. I had a mediator tell me at a union negotiation, say it's not a big deal, just raise taxes. And I wanted to reach across the table and get upset.
Wow, that's a great one.
I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, no, that they view it totally different whenever you get in government, and you shouldn't. It's just a big business.
I say this: the reason why I'm looking forward to Donald Trump and why I think he's the person for the job is because for Hillary Clinton, for Secretary Clinton, for President Obama, they look as the bureaucracy as a must. We must. And I believe that when Trump gets there, he's going to look at it as do we really need? Which is a very different proposition. We must have it. We need a bureaucracy to fix this. We need versus Trump could probably get in and say, wait a second, why do we have this agency? What are they doing? What are their metrics? What have they performed? What have they delivered? And that would, what's crazy to me is it's very rare a government bureaucracy once created goes away. It's usually renamed. Mm-hmm. I think there's maybe been one or two since the late 1800s that completely went away. Mm-hmm. But almost every single government program or agency that's created never goes away. And that's why I believe Trump is the person for the job, because he just thinks differently. And he said it very simple, but he said it the best. It's time for some different thinking.
All right, here's somebody. I'm a woman in my 40s. Love your guest. Just bought his book for my Kindle. Also, Trump is human, and everyone says things that aren't right. And here's somebody else who says Trump's biggest enemy is the media. They're telling folks who to vote for. Well, let's talk about the big old bad guys, the media. There's no doubt about it that you see the skew that happens. Now they're reporting the Clinton side of things, but is it the media per se, the news organizations, or is it actually the talk shows that are basically fueling this thing?
Well, I think there's two. To understand it for the medium prism, I believe we have to go back to when Trump was running. Let's take a look at Mr. Sam Stein from the HuffPost. I believe he's the senior editor there, the editor-in-chief. This man and his paper, Huffington Post, put Trump, when he started to run, on the entertainment pages. That's the first thing they did. They said, you know what, he's not a politician, he's an entertainer. We're going to put him in the entertainment pages. We're not even covering him in our political section. If you look at CNN, if you look at George Will, who is a conservative, Charles Kreitheimer, almost every single person discounted Trump from the beginning. They set out a narrative from the beginning, and they never corrected themselves. They never got it right. And so the media bias people want to talk about now, it started in the primary. It started when he announced. Kevin Williamson, which, by the way, another chapter in my book, Chapter 9, called Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson launched National Review with an article, launched Trump's campaign after Trump came down the escalator. He launched that magazine, didn't launch the magazine, launched that issue with an article titled Witless Ape Rides Escalator. They didn't even give him a shot. They didn't even give him a chance. And then not only that, but then they turned themselves. Let me read you a quote from Charles Cook that's out of my book. Then they turned their attack on us. Charles C.W. Cook wrote this: "A plague is sweeping the land, gathering victims of all shapes and sizes, and turning them into fools. Its name for now is Trumpism." So from the very beginning, listen to that. If you even wanted to consider, if you want to even listen to Trump, they said you were a fool. You were stupid. You were dumb. You're a bigot, or in my case, you're a sellout. You're prejudiced. You're racist. You're homophobic. How is that any different than what Republicans have been told, conservatives or libertarians have been told since the lifetime? So that's when the bias started, and it never really changed. And now you have all-out articles from reporters saying we have to think, we've got to cover Trump differently. We got to fact check, please. Then you've got WikiLeaks discovered that there's collusion. Glenn Thrush, who does a podcast called Off Message, a political writer, is in collusion with the Hillary campaign. Who's that guy from Fox? John Harwood? In collusion CNBC, I'm sorry, in collusion with the Hillary campaign. So it's been from the very beginning.
Wow. I don't have enough time to go through every one. But if you want to call, that's the easiest way to get in right now. 724-543-1380. Keep texting. We'll try to get to as many as we can.
I'll try to keep them shorter.
Okay, just compared to our local government, we got 3 new commissioners, and they're still within a political system. People should look at that and to show what he is saying about Trump, not in a political system. Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that you have to understand, this is important, because when Donald Trump wins and changes and happenings fast are going to get frustrated, it doesn't just start with the president, because 90% of the rules and regulations you live under are actually from the local and state level. So you can't just stop with Donald Trump. You got to demand of your elected officials at the local level the same thing that you demand of Mr. Trump at the national level.
All right, let's go to calls. Go ahead, caller. You're on Talk of the Town.
Hi, you're doing a good job tooting your guy, Mr. Truitt. I agree that I think Donald Trump would be good for this country, but what worries me, what if something, we're such a global world, what if something happens outside of our borders, we're dragged into something in another country? What's going to happen?
Good question.
Well, there's 2 questions.
Does he understand the foreign policy like he should?
I believe he understands it like he should for the time that we're in. In other words, the reason why our foreign policy has been so unsuccessful is because the understanding of foreign policy has been based upon a prism that the media and military industrial complex has built. And clearly, from ISIS, from Benghazi, that prism doesn't work. So Mr. Trump, I believe, is bringing a fresh understanding. Does he understand it as perfectly as someone who has lived it for 45 years? I don't say he understands it perfectly, but I think he has a better grasp of it than they do.
All right. Well, and also, whenever you start talking about foreign policy, you also, and all you have to do is look back to the Clintons raising money for their foundation through foreign governments.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever, and then didn't go ahead and file any kind of returns, didn't do anything for 10 years, and got away with it.
I mean, in New York, I was just in New York City, outside of the Clinton headquarters. They are protesting. When Hillary comes, they protest, the Haitians, when I say they, let me be specific. The Haitians protest because the Clintons raised $400 million for this earthquake in Haiti, and they don't know where the money is. Nobody can tell us where the money is. At some point, and this is what I say, man, I know, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm an official surrogate. They don't pay me, so the worst they can do is take away my title. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I know a lot of people. I know you find it hard. I know. I get it. Donald Trump's different. Sometimes you're like, oh, man. I do it too. You're like, oh, Mr. Trump, no. But we have to do something different. Let's take a shot. We know what Hillary Clinton represents. We know the corruption she represents. So go in the booth, pray, and just punch that ballot for Mr. Trump. And then in 4 years, if you don't like him, fire him and get somebody else.
Okay, here's somebody saying Trump will put blacks back into the cotton fields. Rich white people will still rule. And P.S. Trump's going to lose, brother.
So, first of all, where do you get this notion that he's going to put blacks in the cotton field? Do you know anything about Mr. Trump? Do you realize that when nobody else in New York City would hire African Americans in the top part of their construction organizations, just like for women, Mr. Trump hired African Americans? That has always been the case. In fact, I used to work real estate, and the one organization I never experienced racism from was the Trump organization. That's the one organization I never did. Oh, he's going to put, you know what? If that's the best you got, that he's going to put us back in the cotton fields, and based on what evidence? What evidence do you have of that? This is what I'm assuming that's an African American that wrote that.
I would say so because calling you brother at the end.
Well, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. You're making these statements. I want you to think about who just wrote that. You're making these statements based on what? Why are you making those statements? You're making the statement that you believe you're going to be back in the cotton field. It's not true. The only person who's going to put you back in the cotton field is you. Ready.
Pruitt's been bought off. Okay, so how much? How
I
much?
get paid zero. What do you mean
come
I've
on,
been bought
come
off?
on. How much is Trump?
I get paid
did he give you
zero.
Did he give you a?
I didn't get an apartment. I don't get a
What
meal.
about the plane, man?
I haven't gotten a plane.
You go from,
no.
from New
I
York
got my
to
car
D.C.
outside. I get nothing. $0 from the Trump campaign. $0. I do this because I actually believe in it. And by the way, I have a long history of my viewpoint on American politics. This didn't just pop up out of the blue. I have a long history of this. Donald Trump did not pay me off. I wish he did pay me. That's, you know.
Are you bucking for a cabinet position or what? I mean, you know,
No,
come on. What's
no.
in this for you? Come on,
I'm
Audrey. What's in it for you?
You know what? I honestly, what's in it for me is a change in the African American community. I have watched the African American community. I mean, I know most of your audience is Caucasian American, but let me just give me 30 seconds. The African American community, just emotionally, psychologically, the stuff you see going on with police, the stuff in the economy, it's just devastating. It's just devastating. The reason why you've seen such a backlash in the African American community against like police officers, even though we know it's not all police officers, is just because there's just been so much hurt and so much pain. And all of this hurt and pain has been caused while we are voting for Democrats. So I'm saying just for 8 years, let's start with this one. For 8 years, let's try something different, something new. Let's not do what we've been doing, because yes, what we've done has worked for Dyson, has worked for Sharpton, has worked for the black elites, but it has not worked for the average black American. It hasn't.
But this is what I'm saying. You go to the Jesse Jackson approach, the Sharpton approach. You go with these guys, and that's what it is. It's keeping it as the black being the victim.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, how do you come out? Because if you take that away, then the Sharptons have no power.
The first thing that I would say to Republicans you have to do is you need to step back and have respect for Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. I'm sure if you go back to my radio show when I first began it, you'll find me railing up and down. But over time, I don't agree with them, but I developed a respect for them because they were willing, back when Dr. King was alive and post-Dr. King, to go into the places so that I could sit here and espouse my views right now and have the bricks thrown at them and the water hoses. I haven't had a water hose turned on me. You know, I haven't. Any racism I face has been words, but no one has had the physical power to alter my life in terms of racism. You know, maybe someone didn't serve me at a table and they should have served me. Nobody cares. That's crazy talk. But I say with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, it starts with the respect for them. And I hope nobody shoots me down for this, but their time has passed. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson we need to set them up, give them a nice retirement place in Florida or the Dominican Republic with Charles Rangel in his house.
Wait, are you saying what I'm perceiving? You're saying that the time of the black community, you know, going after America for the atrocities that was committed on it, and it was committed. I mean, we saw
it's horrible.
We saw it's back in the 60s.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for television, you talk about the media. If it wasn't for television, we began to see the atrocities. We as a country didn't realize it. Oh, there were some segments, but we didn't see what the police were doing. We didn't see the way it was being treated. Now, you know, in the 60s, we saw it and we were appalled, and that's what aided actually the changes to come about into the tearing down the walls that were there and making people be held accountable.
Yeah.
But now let's fast forward to 2016, 2017. That's not the same world, man.
It's not. You're seeing a little bit when it comes to the police videos. You see a little bit of stuff that has been bubbling in certain pockets of the country and in communities like Chicago and Baltimore, again, by the way, controlled by Democrats and have been for years. So, but you're seeing pockets. But when I say Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, it's time for them to retire, what I mean by that is let's have respect for them. They served a place, but we got to approach this differently, because even if I conceded that there was some kind of reparations or something was owed, you're dealing with the great grandchildren of owners and slaves, and it sucks. Listen, it sucks. It sucks. Trust me, I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up with any money. It blows. But at some point you have to say, it's just, it can't be given to me. I have to get out and build it myself. And that's why I support Donald Trump. That's why I say African Americans should be thinking like Trump. Do what the Jews did. The Jews were discriminated against. They were, oh my gosh, man, the Jews were treated like crap. And what happened? What happened with the Jewish community? They came, they became insular, they started building. That's what has to happen. That's what Trump represents.
I have 3 minutes.
Okay.
And I have 3 hours of questions. Because as you go into this, if the polls are correct in the state of Pennsylvania, Hillary's going to take the state because of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You know, they have the largest voting blocks into the millions. They have the ability to draw the numbers that even if you took everybody else in the rest of the state, we don't measure that kind of political power, as you said, which is run by who?
Yeah.
It's the Democrats. So whenever when you start to look at this, there is a lot of people that says, what's the use? So why, in a couple of weeks, should they go out and vote for Donald Trump?
The biggest reason why is because we must have change. We must have it. You can see from WikiLeaks. And by the way, if WikiLeaks was hacking a Republican, the old Republican, I don't think you see anything different. You see the collusion between the media and the Democrats. You see how Hillary said you have to have a public opinion and a private opinion, a public position and a private position. You saw how somehow that she was wiggled out of even a misdemeanor charge. A misdemeanor charge. And I got 3 parking tickets when I was in New York City. And we need the reason to go for Mr. Trump, and I'm begging your audience members. I know it's rough. I know it may be tough for you, but just go in the booth, close your eyes, and vote. We got to have change.
What about the fear? They're afraid that because he's not going to, and which, by the way, I just absolutely love, he's not going to go by the system. But at the same time, they're saying they call him a dictator.
You know what? I say this. Vote for Mr. Trump. If in a year or 6 months or 2 years you feel there's a dictatorship, rise up and get the House to impeach him and the Senate to convict and move on. You have that option. And with Mike Pence, you have a standard experience, all establishment. Give Mr. Trump the chance, because you know what you're going to get with Hillary. So give Trump the chance and then impeach him if you don't like him.
I got to say this, and I've said this before. I don't think Donald Trump's going to be the greatest president we've ever had. But I think what's going to happen, hang on, maybe I'll try to get it. But what I think is going to happen is he's going to mess with the system enough that it's going to start to do some change that we haven't had. You have 15 seconds, ma'am, sir, whichever. Go ahead. Hello? Okay, they thought we were going to.
Okay.
All right, so anyway, thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Autry Pruitt, it's been my pleasure.
Thank you so
very, very much. Thank you for joining us tonight on Talk of the Town. It's been fun. It's been real. I'm back next week, 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights. Be with me, will you? I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Talk of the Town.